I'm Thad Brown, that's Carl Jones. This is Let's Talk Ball. We are breaking down the Bills and the Dolphins, the wild card game. We do this every week right here at RochesterFirst.com. And Carl, let's start on defense, because the big story of this game was Kaiir Elam and the way he stepped in, got a pick, when the Bills were down that led to the go-ahead points. Also made the pass breakup, kind of sort of, but mostly on the last play of the game on fourth down. And you've been all over this from the moment it happened in terms of what he did well, not just in those two plays, but other things that stood out from his game against the Dolphins.
Yeah, first off, doing it from off the bench is impressive to me, because every other position out there, you get to hit someone, get into the swing of things. He did it cold, fresh off the bench, playoff game, first playoff game of his career, and came up off the bench. Obviously, having the halftime helps him a little bit, but I thought that was impressive. 3rd and 19, the Dolphins were on a 24-3 run. The shift, the momentum, is this really about to happen here?
They're in front with the ball at that point.
Like, is this really about to happen here? Like, everyone's like, no, not really, right? Kaiir makes a phenomenal play. He's in a flat cover 2 spot. There's nothing keeping him short, and it's 3rd and 19 anyway, so might as well get deep.
Right.
Gets deep, high points the ball, where that's what he got coached to do, and that's what he got drafted to do, because you're athletic. Go up and get the ball, man. Like, you're 6'1", athletic. I'm sure his vertical is near 40. Go get the ball, and he snatched it and got the air. That's beautiful. Also, coming out of the draft, ad nauseum, one of the biggest knocks on him was he wasn't the most willing tackler.
Yeah, and I have been one of the people who volunteered that, willingly, that this is almost questioning why the Bills picked him for that reason.
Exactly, especially with how much zone they play, so you want your corners to tackle. And it wasn't the prettiest tackle by any means, but he avoided not one, but two. Also, the second one was a fullback, and got Jeff Wilson, I believe, on the ground. That's all I need my corners to do, especially when the Dolphins are going to put the corner in the run fit and make him make a play.
And that was the next possession, I think, after the interception. Maybe the next play, to be honest, on defense.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, the Dolphins clearly are trying him. They're like, all right, we want to see, all right, you can cover, my man. Let's see if you want to get nasty in this run fit. Got nasty enough to get him on the ground. So then we go to the last drive of the game, and he's lined up with Tyreek Hill, good on good. And let's be quite frank here. All offseason, Brandon Beane talked about the speed of the Chiefs, right? The speed of Tyreek Hill and how much they wanted to go against the guy. They needed a guy to combat that, right? Well, they drafted a guy who ran a 4.3 from the SEC to go do that. Kaiir Elam, no fear at all. He's in Tyreek Hill's chest, put 2 hands on him, disrupt the timing just enough. It don't got to be pretty, but with a 3rd-string quarterback out there who doesn't have a litany of reps with Tyreek Hill, timing's off just enough. Incompletion almost picks it off if one Tyreek Hill turning into a DB himself. Then, like you said, play of the game. He's lined up with Tyreek Hill before. Now he's on a tight end, so now we got to switch our game plan up a little bit. Clock's a little slower because he's not Tyreek Hill in front of you. Mike Gesicki changes his route, so Kaiir Elam has to flip his hips, put his foot in the ground, explode, makes just enough of deterrence to force an incompletion. Just a beautiful sequence of plays right there that helped the Bills get a win, because, boy, that offense was struggling.
Going back to the first one, the interception, you talk about how in cover 2, the outside corner often has flat responsibility. It seemed like he did. He was going deep at the snap, and I love that because, like you said, it's 3rd and 19. Who cares if they complete a 7-yarder on me in the flat? To have the instinct to know the situation and be able to sink immediately and say, the only thing that's going to beat me is 15, 20 yards downfield. I'm going to go down here and check. And to be honest, Skyler's a young quarterback. I think he's given away that's where he's going early. But regardless, the fact that Elam is aware of the situation, knows how to play it, knows how to almost cheat his responsibility in the right direction to make the pick, I was impressed with that. And beyond those plays, for the most part, look, there were a couple of mental lapses, a couple of plays where, like, look, hey, this is still a rookie learning. For the most part, he was really good in this game, to the point where going forward against Cincinnati, if I'm the Bills, I start Kaiir Elam, and my leash is fairly long. Now I'm going to have Dane Jackson stand next to me on the sideline the whole game with his helmet on, but I want to see if Elam can keep doing this against the Bengals.
100%, because you talked about the physical attributes that the Dolphins receivers brought to the table. Speed, more speed, probably no 2 faster receivers in the league.
Yeah.
Well, the Bengals got a whole different dynamic of receivers. Big, explosive, can get in and out of routes, dunk artists. And to be quite frank, Trey White is a phenomenal athlete in his own right.
He ain't that big.
But he's not big, and he's not as long and straight line fast as Kaiir Elam. So if you want a guy who can, fight with T. Higgins at the line of scrimmage, Kaiir Elam is the guy to do that. I'm not saying Dane can't do it, but if we're going to go into a fight with our D-line, maybe not up to where we need it to be, I need at least to be the best freaks out there to make something happen. And Kaiir Elam is quote unquote the best athletic freak they have in the secondary.
He's the most freaky guy they have, that's for sure. Now, as for the rest of the secondary, I thought Trey White had a really good game, and really you and I both thought that. Now look, it's a third-string rookie quarterback who's never played in the NFL, so it's tough to get a real read on how well they did. But just watching White and Kaiir Elam shadow receivers, even Dave Jackson wasn't bad when he was in the game. I thought the Bills secondary as a whole did a really good job on 2 super receivers.
They competed. I mean, at the line of scrimmage, it wasn't like they were playing off the entire game either.
Right.
There were a lot of reps where not just Kaiir, but Trey, Dane, even Taryn were all at the line of scrimmage and said, look, I don't care if you run 4-2 or not. I'm right here. I might have help behind me, so that's why I'm a little more aggressive. But I'm right in your face, and you got to go through me to get the ball. I love that out of the guys. They gave up some catches. But, man, the competition, especially Taryn. Well, Trey White, first off, I believe the second drive of the game, big PBU on Waddle. Love that, punching it out. And then later, Taron Johnson with a great punch out as well on Waddle over the middle. Dang, Waddle, you had a rough day. But
yeah, early drop, too. I mean, he had them beat.
Yeah, really rough day for him. I'm sure he'll bounce back next season. But nonetheless, the Bills DBs, you know, everything is on their plate now. You know, the rush isn't as good as it once was early in the season. They need them to step up, and they showed up on Sunday.
Let's talk about that pass rush. When the Bills were in a 4-man rush, I mean, in general, it was non-existent. They did not get any pressure. You know, Greg Rousseau and Ed Oliver did nothing for 3 quarters. Showed up with some plays in the 4th quarter. Nothing overly impressive. Ed Oliver had a sack, but even that sack was basically based on a blitz. I mean, the Bills, I think Leslie Frazier realized the only way they're going to get any sort of consistent pressure on the quarterback is the blitz. Now, fortunately for the Bills, they have who I think is the best blitzing linebacker in the NFL, Matt Milano. And again, 2 sacks in this game. You know, the way he can contort his body to get around, you know, running backs to try and go low. Even if it's offensive lineman that picks him up, he's been this way for a long time. This is why he's an all-pro, the best at it. You saw it again in this game. But, you know, again, spinning it forward to the Bengals game. There's a lot of talk this week about how Cincinnati is going to be missing potentially 3 offensive linemen. I guess Jonah Williams, believe this or not, the guy who dislocated his kneecap in the last game, they think he might play. I don't know how you do that, but whatever, modern medicine, all that stuff. Regardless, whether it's 2 guys out plus somebody beaten up or 3 out, well, the Dolphins just had that situation, and the Bills' front 4 couldn't get pressure on those guys. Why is it going to be any different this week?
I agree, because everyone's talking about that. And you're right. I mean, at this point in the year, the trenches is what matters most. I mean, obviously, your superstar quarterbacks are going to, like, take you over the top.
Probably the quarterbacks matter most, then the trenches second.
But nonetheless, I can't compete without good trenches. You know what I'm trying? Like, it's hard to even get to the ring without my trenches not helping me out. But, man, Matt Milano just brings bad intentions, doesn't he, when he blitzes? I mean, I think it was Ahmed who tried to get in there and stand tall with Milano, and boy, it didn't look pretty. Then, like you said, with the way he was able to swim his body around and get to the other sack, which is awesome to see. Tremaine Edmonds, not necessarily blitzing, but he had a huge hit that, I don't know what it sounded like from your perspective. I know I heard it all the way back here in Rochester.
I didn't see it so much as I felt it. I mean, I think there was Ahmed again, who was just, and it really wasn't even a play where Skyler hung him out to dry. It was just a throw that never should have been thrown. Edmonds was on it from the jump and just buried the poor dude. I think his facial imprint's still sitting on the 42-yard line somewhere in Highmark Stadium.
Yeah, but nonetheless, everyone else, the back 7, the linebackers, well, including the backers, are going to have to help out this front 4, Leslie Frazier included, because Shaq Lawson is getting he's helping out the edges a little bit in terms of run fits, but man, in terms of just seeking go getting the quarterback, they're not up to par of that right now.
The one thing I think the D-line should be feeling good about, and again, this can go forward to Cincinnati. They did a great job against the run. Dolphins ran for 42 yards. 16 of that, or 15, 13 of that, whatever it was wide receiver jet sweeps. Cincinnati does not run the ball well, even when their O-line is good. Now, obviously, Joe Mixon's a better back than anything Miami has. But, in terms of scheme and package and being able to take away things, the D-line did a really good job, just top to bottom, making sure Miami couldn't run it. And it goes right to the end of the game, because before you have the Kaiir Elam pass breakup or 4th down, you got a 3rd and 1, where, again, it's Matt Milano makes the play, surfs himself around 2 offensive linemen and get in there and get a stop. I don't know. I watched it a couple times. I don't know how Ahmed didn't make it the 1st down anyway, but a hell of a play by Milano. And look, as long as the Bills can keep Milano and Edmonds relatively clean, in this game against Miami and also against Cincinnati, this front 7 and especially the D-line should do a good job against the run.
I agree. I want to bring up a stat really fast that I saw on Twitter from Andrew Russell. with Von Miller, I know it's been
Oh, yeah, I've seen this one too. Go ahead.
Thanksgiving. They were 4th in pressure rate, which the eye test matches that.
As a front four rush.
Front four.
Right.
And mind you, I think that was the first game of the season where it was a huge not uproar, but like celebration of how Leslie Frazier caused all that havoc. Well, not Leslie, the front four caused all that havoc against the Rams with no blitzes.
Did not send a fifth rusher once against the Rams.
Since Von has been out, 27th in the NFL.
With a front four rush.
With a front four rush, and that's no bueno.
Actually, I don't know. Was that front four or is that just four in general?
4 rushers.
Okay, so
4 rushers.
You might include some zone stuff.
Yeah. But nonetheless, if the Bills want to continue to advance in the postseason, they're going to have to figure out to bring 5 or more, because right now you're going to have Burrow, Mahomes, God forbid Trevor Lawrence pulls off another miracle, and then whatever NFC quarterback you have, you're going to have to make them uncomfortable, because they're going to sit back and dice you up if you don't.
There is not a team left, as I'm scanning just the other teams remaining right now, that doesn't have either a really good quarterback or a super elite group of receivers. I mean, maybe the Giants would be the only team that doesn't have it right now. And boy, if the Bills meet the Giants, would that be a Cleveland story? But let's flip over. Speaking of offense and weapons, let's go to the offensive side. Start with the quarterback, Josh Allen. And this was, people talk about vintage Josh. I don't know if this was that, but you did see, the full spectrum of what Josh has been doing this year. There were some off the charts, stupid good throws. Diggs deep. That was like not even the 5th best one in my opinion. It's still a really good throw. The Knox touchdown, unbelievable to fit that in on a single coverage. The Gabe Davis end of the first half, I'm scrambling left. I'm going to contort my body right and flip it 15 yards. Just utterly stupid. And then the Shakir throw in the 4th quarter. He's covered.
Yeah.
I mean, he's basically literally the defensive back has him in his back pocket, and Josh gets it to a spot where only Shakir can make the play.
Threw him open.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I thought. Threw him open on that play. So you had the typical array of, Josh being unbelievable. 350 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. Great stuff. And then you had Josh Allen, in many ways, not being able to either read coverage, not, seeing things properly, maybe overreacting to pressure. I mean, number one, I counted 4 specific plays where he had a short receiver that he could have easily taken, instead tried something deeper down the field. 2 of them were deep balls to Gabe Davis that really had no chance of being completed. 2 of them were interceptions. There was another play, we talked about this, where Josh actually completed a pass on a 3rd down to Stephon Diggs. Diggs was deeper down the field, but you had Khalil Shakir running by himself. I know it's a shorter play, but theoretically, if you throw the shorter guy and he's so uncovered and Diggs makes a block, it's a touchdown. So Allen is missing some of the checkdowns. And look, this is going to be the dilemma you get with Josh Allen all the time, is that, yeah, he wants to go make the big play, and a lot of times he does, but sometimes when you try and make the big play, you miss the shorter play and you cause yourself more problems. So we did see both of those. And then the other thing I want to bring up, and then I'll let you respond here to my diatribe. Spencer Brown had a bad day against Jalen Phillips. And I tell you what, I think Jalen Phillips is going to make it a bad day for a lot of offensive tackles going forward. I think he's really coming on as a pass rusher in the NFL. But this was one of the bad days. And Spencer Brown just over and over was losing hand fights, not able to stay with Phillips. And it got to the point where this affected Josh Allen's game, because in the second half, when he looked to his right, if he saw even a flash of white jersey, Josh Allen wasn't sliding in the pocket. He was bailing, and that might be scrambling when he didn't need to, scrambling into sacks, throwing balls in spots where he didn't want to. So there's a lot of factors involved in the things Josh did wrong, even though there were a lot of things that Josh did right in this game too. Yeah,
and when you watch it live, and obviously you're on the field, so you have a different view of it, you feel as if, man, Dorsey's not setting him up for success, or why aren't receivers running wide open? Point blank period, that's how the Dolphins play defense, all right? They came into this game battered up in the secondary, so they were like, you know what? We're going to go down swinging the way we play football. We're not changing for nobody. We're going to come after you, and if we go down, we're going to go down with the way we play. First 3 drives of the game, Bills marched right down the field playing that exact style, and Josh Allen was very comfortable throwing the deep balls, finding guys against man coverage. Then when the Dolphins kept running it, kept coming at them, you're like, we're not switching. You're not knocking me out. I'm on the stool. I'm getting up for They might have got to the 8 count, but I'm still getting up, all right? And the Dolphins didn't panic. They switched things up a little bit defensively. But I think that's where Josh got in trouble a little bit, because he fell in love with the hero ball, the home run ball that came so easy to him in the first 3 drives of the game. And he was like, man, if it was available then, why can't it be available the rest of the game? And the Dolphins were like, we're going to be damned if we do, damned if we don't. If we blitz Josh, he's going to beat us. If we don't blitz him, he's going to beat us. So why not go out swinging the way we play ball? And I know that they gave up, 423 total yards, 300 in the air. Wasn't great statistically, but I thought the Dolphins had the best game plan for what they could do personnel-wise. And it made Josh uncomfortable. Three interceptions.
Two picks. 3 fumbles, 1 loss. Yeah.
I mean, defensively, they did about as much as they can do with the personnel they had on the field.
It's funny you talk about the Dolphins' game plan. So the second touchdown drive, 5-man blitz, 6-man blitz, 6-man blitz, 7-man blitz, 5-man blitz. And now look, one of those blitzes got a sack. Remember on the 52-yarder to Diggs, the Bills are in 3rd and 15 there because they got a sack before. And I don't remember who tweeted this. It might have been Nate Tice, who I follow from The Athletic. The Dolphins' game plan was to make Josh high variance. We're going to attack him, like you said. We're going to do what we do. And, yeah, we might get beat on a few, and they did, but we're going to win a few too. And that was the case also. And, the sack fumble touchdown that Josh gave up early in the 3rd quarter, that was another blitz. I thought a pretty smart blitz too. In fact, to go dive into the weeds on this a little bit, the Bills ran a lot of 22 personnel in this game, 2 running backs, 2 tight ends, and they even threw out of it. So you've got situations where you've got Reggie Gilliam and Quentin Morris, running pass patterns, and those guys are terrible receivers, but they're not. They might not even be in the top 8 or 10 of guys I want to run in a pattern who are currently on the roster for the Bills, and they succeeded with it a little bit early. That play was a 22 pass where the Dolphins said, okay, you want to put your big guys out in pass patterns, well, we're going to drop Melvin Ingram and cover with him because he's just as athletic as those guys are, and then we're going to blitz a corner off the backside, and Josh never saw it coming. So you talk about game plan. I think the Dolphins' defensive game plan was what they do, and it was pretty smart in this game.
100%. To add on that a little bit, cover 0 for everyone who probably saw that all up and down your timeline about the Dolphins.
May not know.
Cover 0 is essentially all eligible receivers the Dolphins have a man for, and if you don't have an eligible receiver, you're blitzing.
Right.
Okay, so you have 5 eligible receivers on the field, so that means the Dolphins are blitzing 6 every single snap.
And then if any of those receivers stay in, those guys are blitzing.
Oh, coming too.
Yeah.
So they're basically sending more than what you can block that the Bills can block, right? The Bills had an excellent game plan for that. I thought the first 3 drives of the game, they would motion in Dawson Knox to be the extra blocker. So the blitzer's 10 yards off the field, so he would never get home. So now we are even. I thought that they did a couple QB draws, like you said, to get the numbers advantage in the run game. But then once the Dolphins got away from just bringing the house and just, we're not bringing everybody, but we'll bring just about everybody.
Regular blitzes.
Right, just normal blitzes that everyone else in the NFL does. That's where the Bills began to struggle. Like I said earlier to you in the office, it appeared as if the Bills studied only cover 0 blitzes from the Dolphins this week.
And did a good job with it.
A great job.
Yes.
I mean, they put up 17 points on those first 3 drives. They were walking down the field. But then once they stopped going from that, man, the Bills struggled. And I don't know how much I put on that on Dorsey, how much just Josh Allen just not taking the checkdowns like you said.
There's no way that me and you watching film could diagnose a 6-man blitz with all the protections and changes and say, pinpoint who's at fault.
100%. I mean, half of the time we don't know which way they're sliding or all that type of stuff. But nonetheless, I thought, and granted, I don't know how many times you're going to play a defense like the Dolphins. I don't know how many.
Not again this year.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
maybe Kansas City.
The Chiefs, they are a little, they're a little ballsy in that regard. But outside of them, no one else is really going to do all those exotic things. Having said that, though, Dorsey, Josh, offense in general, they got to get on the same page because that's not going to work again next week or if you want to go any further than that.
Yeah, we talked about it, that the blitz pickup stuff has been uneven to say the least. Sometimes it works, but there are a lot of situations where free runners have been coming in the last few weeks. And this is an offensive line that's generally experienced, that's generally played together a decent amount. There's been a few weeks where Deion's out this week, Morse is out this week, but you would expect better in that situation. I will say I thought, other than Spencer Brown, the other 4 guys up front individually I thought had pretty solid days. Everybody got beat once or twice here or there, but I thought generally was okay. Run game was okay. The Bills hit a couple of plays, but it wasn't a great game, but definitely not a game I'm gonna turn my eyes at the wrong way. Receiver-wise, give me your take real quick on Shakir and Cole Beasley. Both guys kind of stepping into the slot, haven't played a lot of time or not nearly as much as they got in this game. Both guys made some plays, weren't all over the film, but definitely, showed up a couple times.
because the highs were so high and Shakir's low was so low, I was just thinking on the drop, I think it was a decent, nonetheless, performance. Nothing great. I mean, the catch in the fourth quarter was phenomenal by Shakir, extending and, like you said, Josh throwing him open. Beasley just walking into the end zone. But also on the third down, that was a vintage Beasley play where, you know what, and just going across the middle.
Yes.
So it was encouraging to see that. But Isaiah McKenzie, we're recording this on Wednesday, was a full participant in a walkthrough practice. So we'll see if he shoots up on Sunday, looking like he will. I mean, I don't know if those two did enough to keep Isaiah off the field.
Probably not.
So I thought they were all right. I mean, the bigger story, as you know, was Gabe stepping up and being playoff Gabe. That's his new nickname is.
Yeah, and I mean, I thought Gabe was better than what he normally was. Nothing too crazy. I think the big thing that Gabe Davis did in this game is he didn't drop anything. You know,
that's what it was.
He had the low ball over the middle that looked like it would hit the ground and clearly did not. You know, and made a couple big plays late. I think the Bills did a nice job getting him open. And we talked about this in the office too. I thought Ken Dorsey had a plus game. I know people have kind of been down on him a little bit. You know, the quarterback draw in the third quarter after the Elam interception to set up the Beasley touchdown was a great call. I thought the James Cook touchdown was a good job of taking a back who needs to get in space. And when you have a hard time of creating space on any team in the NFL, vertically getting down the field, let's create him some space horizontally and let him beat out there. John Brown, by the way, nice block on that play too. Give that man some credit. So I thought Dorsey had not a great, spectacular game, but a good game for the most part. But I don't think Davis, going back to him, did anything more spectacular than what he normally does other than just not dropping passes.
Well, that was the thing because he couldn't catch. A lot of those catches I don't think even were contested, but it would be the gimmies.
That's a good part.
But it would be the gimmies that you would kind of like roll your eyes at, like, why couldn't you catch that? You know what I'm trying. So that was at least encouraging to see. That had nothing. That doesn't compare to. I don't know. The stats don't add up either. The KC game, I thought he was phenomenal in a lot of different ways. This game was. I would expect my wide receiver 2 to do this if my wide receiver 1 is getting bracketed as much as Diggs is. So that's why it was at least encouraging to see, hey, Gabe, we need you. Can you at least be competent, right?
When the throw is there, just make the catch.
Exactly. And just the last thing from me, we talked about the up front. I'm going to give some love to the backs as well. Devin Singletary on that long catch, on that 3rd and 15 long catch to Stephon Diggs. Good job by Josh Allen. Just enough time to get the block off, get the throw off. Naheem Hines had another block where he pancaked Jerome Baker. Love that out of the backs, especially in blitz pickup when you know the Dolphins are blitzing damn near every play.
I agree. I thought all 3 backs, James Cook too. I think James Cook technique is the only one. He tends to try and cut the guy's knees out, where Devin and Hines will stand up and try and block.
I don't know if I want James Cook trying to stand up and block with anybody though. Like
fair, no, that's fair. Yeah, that's probably what he has to do. Yeah. But I thought all 3 guys in the situations where they had to pick up blitzes, which were many against the Dolphins, did a really, really good job. So, you know, hey, look, it was a 34-31 game against a team that we thought that were going to blow out. The results should be mixed. All right, we will do this again next week, win or lose when the Bills take on the Bengals. Until then, please click on something else here at RochesterFirst.com. I'm Thad Brown, that's Carl Jones, and this is Let's Talk Ball.